Let's call to order the work session for the Cochise County Board of Supervisors. We're meeting in the hearing room on Melody Lane, pursuant to ARS 431.02H. The public will have access to the meeting room 15 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Any item on this agenda is open for discussion. Members of the Board of Supervisors will attend in person or via Microsoft Teams. Members of the public may also attend via Microsoft Teams or the mobile app. Work sessions are time for county staff to inform and discuss agenda items with the Board of Supervisors, and public comments will not be taken. We'll begin with a roll call. District 1.
Crosby is here.
District 2.
Gomez is here.
And District 3. Antonori is here. All supervisors are present and in person. Today we are discussing the... Oh, am I on the wrong one again? The work... Well, what the heck am I doing here? Public defender and legal advocate. Okay, that's one. I got.
This is like our fourth one.
I just got to grab the right one. All right, so we're here to discuss the budget for the public defender and legal advocate. So we'll take it from there.
All right. So the public defender, legal advocate, and indigent defense officers. I'm over the indigent defense coordinator position. I'm not that position, I'm over that position. And so I'll be handling that portion of the budget, but it bleeds into everything they do, or rather they're bleeding into each other. So, we're all related.
They're all synergy.
So I'll let Charles go through the presentation first, or do you want me to do it, Charles? We didn't really talk about that.
Obviously, we got a PowerPoint. I can go through in detail some in the PowerPoint.
Okay.
This is, we have two main offices. Well, you have several. The way it's set up in Cochise County, we have IDC. IDC supervises or is the parent for the Public Defender's Office, the Office of the Legal Advocate, and also locates and provides conflict counsel in the event that the Public Defender's Office or the Legal Advocate are either overloaded or have a conflict in the matter. Some of the major areas where we end up needing conflict counsel is dependencies. Generally, you have a family, you have mom, dad, 4 kids, grandma, grandpa. Everybody gets an attorney. And the attorney, no one attorney can represent 3 or 4 people. Everybody gets their individual attorneys. So currently my office is composed of the Public Defender's Office and the remnants of the Legal Defender's Office. My dependency attorney is retiring at the end of June, Bill Brown. And at that point in time, we're going to go ahead and bring the 3 part-time legal defenders attorneys under the public defender's umbrella, and whatever cases or conflicts at the time, which are substantially less than it was when we started this. We had like 74 conflicts a year and a half ago, and we're now down to, I believe, about 15. So it's taken a year and a half, and, we've sort of had a Chinese wall between the offices. But after a year and a half, when Bill retires, we're going to be in a situation where we don't have to refer as many cases out. But my office consists of a public defender, that's me. I have 5 criminal felony attorneys. 2 of them currently are part-time. I have a mental health attorney. We've found that the Title 36 mental health statutes or statutory scheme has been being used much more frequently over the last couple of years. And, it used to be you didn't need a full-time mental health attorney, but the caseload, I think, currently, fiscal year to date, we've had 130 mental health cases, Title 36, and we got 2 more months to go. So my mental health attorney is Joy Kemp out of Sierra Vista, and she is staying rather busy on that. She does some juveniles, too, if she has time. I also have 4 dependency, misdemeanor, and delinquency attorneys, mainly dependency due to state funding. 3 of them are part-time. 1 of them is full-time. That's Bill Brown. What we're looking to do, when Bill retires is to, the 3 part-times are at 21 hours a week. We're looking to step them up to 30 hours a week. And they believe they can cover the bulk of what Bill has been covering without having to necessarily do a full-time position. Support staff, I have 1 legal secretary supervisor, 6 legal secretaries, and 1 defense investigator. Next page is legal advocate. I'll let Andrew tell you about his office.
I'm Andrew Marcy. I'm the director of the Legal Advocate. I've been director now for about 6 months after Ms. Orozco left and went to Pima County. I have 5 criminal attorney positions in the office, but 2 of them are currently vacant, so we're a little bit short-staffed in our office. We have the misdemeanor delinquency attorney and then 2 dependency attorneys, 1 who is a 30-hour part-time person. So we cover a similar caseload to the public defender's office, but we don't have a mental health attorney, so they get the bulk of those cases. And then because of those vacant positions, my office is not taking as many criminal cases right now just because I don't have the attorneys to assign them to. Also, my attorneys tend to be a bit newer than those working for Charles's office. He has several people with 15, 20 years plus of Arizona criminal experience, and then several people with quite a bit of experience from other states. All of my attorneys are relatively new. The person besides me who has the most experience has 3.5 years. So it's a newer, younger office of attorneys getting up to speed on serious cases who can't just be handed a homicide and say, go to work, that they're still working their way up through case severity. And then similar to Charles' offices, I have the legal secretary supervisor, 5 legal secretaries, and then the defense investigator.
And just as an aside, the Title 36 mental health falls under the public defender's office statutorily, so
yeah,
that's part of the reason why it is with my office. And I think if you average the years of experience in my office, we're probably 26, 7, 8 years of experience on average. So we're all older attorneys that have been doing it, seasoned attorneys who have been doing it for a very long time. So, we can just throw a murder case at somebody and, go to trial in 4 to 6 months. So
I have a comment,
go ahead.
which is for the benefit of my colleagues. This is the 6th Amendment of the Constitution, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process of obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his dissent. It is a right. And so we've heard from a couple other departments. One of them was the health department, and you don't see things about the health department in the Bill of Rights. So this is something that we can't unfortunately get around. And the last time we were talking to Ms. Zuko, she said something like 110 grand does not get a seasoned attorney, and 125 grand gets her a seasoned attorney in her experience. That's kind of where we're at right now. And you indicate that your office has 2 attorneys down?
Yes, we have 2 vacant positions.
And so how many vacancies do you have?
I currently don't.
Okay, excellent. What do you consider, how many attorneys in your office are retired? They've got some other income so they can come here and work for less. Is that a thing or not?
At best, no, I don't think any of them.
Nobody's retired.
No, it basically, my office, everybody is down here because they enjoy the area.
Okay.
And I have a number of them that are doing part-time, that are on 30-hour or half-time setups, so they can, in addition to service in Cochise County, they can make $250, $350 an hour on 10 to 20 hours a week on their own, in their own business. So basically, they're working outside of the county to supplement their income so they can work at the county.
Okay, I guess that's kind of what I was getting at. And
incidentally, the deputies I have, with the exception of Ms. Brubaker, are all at, I believe, 110 currently. Is it 110? I think we're at 110.
I think so.
Yeah.
And that's cut into like if they get 3/4 of that if they're working 30 hours.
I divide it, I go off of the 110 on, 3/4 time, half time.
Okay, I understand.
So I think the LD boys are actually under, a little bit under that, but that may have to be addressed when, salary adjustment season comes around.
Right. Okay. Well, it isn't necessarily a salary adjustment. It's supply and demand, and we have to have. We
Yeah,
have
and
to have.
I would tend to agree with Ms. Zuko that, 125 is probably the minimum you can look at to truly get somebody down here that's willing to commit full time.
I understand. So that's a reality of what we're looking at, and it's a painful reality, unfortunately. Maybe. Well, maybe.
Well, I mean, you got highly educated individuals and they don't come cheap.
Right. I understand. And especially to work defense. Is working defense less desirable in your opinion? It isn't to me.
It's a thankless profession.
Okay.
I mean, basically, you're dealing with people that most of the time feel that they're unjustly accused, and you're part of the problem, not part of the
I
solution.
understand.
You're the bearer of bad news. Oh, by the way, they, defendant, they have this against you. If you go to trial, you're looking at, you're looking at a sentence of 20 years, but they're offering you 5. We advise you take it.
Right.
So you go, and they cite the Constitution. Isn't it your duty to defend us? Aren't you on our side? And it's like, yeah, we are. We're trying to keep you from exacerbating your mistake.
Right.
I didn't have a public defender, and I had that same discussion, and it's not a fun discussion to have with a lawyer.
Right.
I'll tell you.
It's a thankless profession, but the thing is, it's a necessary one.
I understand.
Very necessary. And a lot of times, if you do it right, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you run into them at Walmart, and they realize you did the right thing.
Mhm.
But they generally don't when you're dealing with them.
Yeah. So
They
how
think
about-
you're the enemy.
How about so for your attorneys, they're all salaried and they don't get paid by the hour, so they're not like a regular defense attorney that bills hourly, right? So
Right.
you're just working for the
It's flat rate.
flat rate.
Mhm.
So how do you distribute the caseload to make sure that the attorneys are all kind of like evenly working, or for lack of a better term, that you're not burying one guy who's the good guy that's really good. So he gets all the hard, murder 1 charges, murder 2 charges, right? And then the other guys are working on speeding tickets and, well,
Right.
not speeding tickets, but
I have one primary murder defense attorney.
Right.
Her name is Cynthia Brubaker. She took on a case by the name of DeLees 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
was that the guy up by me? That killed the lady, killed the guy and kidnapped the lady? Is that
No, high-speed pursuit from November of
Oh.
2022, I think, up on the 10.
so like a vehicular homicide?
Around 3 people were killed in the rollover.
Oh.
But when she first got him, I kept giving her a few cases. The last 2 to 3 months, she's been working on nothing but that case.
Yeah.
I've designed, I don't know how much Ms. Zuko told you about the way the county attorney's office operates, but they do the bulk of their cases through what's called the Early Resolution Court,
Right.
ERC system, and it's probably 70 to 80% of the cases go through ERC.
What about I got an email from our buddy, Mr. Morgan, who believes that is a system of coercion to encourage people to take pleas, even though they haven't seen all the evidence and the case hasn't been developed, and it's just this quick way to try to just tell them to plead guilty and get them out of the,
Fifth Amendment.
yeah.
Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. So that's what a plea deal is.
Well,
But I mean, is this something that's going on where you see that the county attorneys kind of like, they tell you, okay, here, we'll give you, you're facing 5 years but we'll give you less than a year and probation if you take it now without even looking at the case. Take it now, or does that happen?
We'll give you a 6 open and stipulate the probation so you can get a misdemeanor out of it.
Yeah, but they don't
It happens.
you don't even know all the evidence against you. You haven't heard of all the witnesses against you.
We definitely don't do any witness interviews.
They just come in and they just say,
We get the general police reports. We can,
Probable
most of the
cause
time, we get
statements.
the primary body cams if the officers were wearing ones. But that's it. We're not doing interviews. We're not doing extensive. Go ahead. Sorry.
Off the top of your head, if you were to estimate, if there was no such thing as plea deals, how much would you have to multiply the defense department to cover all the cases if there's no
Right.
such thing as plea deals?
By 10.
At least.
By
Wow.
10. I literally set up in, I think, that chair a couple of years ago. Judge Cardinal did a from arrest to indictment seminar, and they asked me to sit up and chat about ERC. And I started off with welcome to the figment of your imagination, because in ERC court, until you agree to transfer your case to Superior Court, you're still in justice court. You're in what amounts to a settlement conference. And I finished up my little spiel by welcome to traffic court for felonies.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I'm I'm one of the primary ERC guys. Katsarelis is our contract attorney that does the bulk of does 8 ERC a week. And other counties that have similar systems, they call them EDC. They call them, do we need to get moving?
No.
Okay, just looking to watch. But they call it EDC, but it's the same basic deal. It's without complete disclosure. Your client knows what he did. Therefore, here's what he's looking at if he goes to trial. Does he want to take a screaming deal in order to avoid going to trial? And I don't like, I personally don't like the system, but I also am of the opinion other counties put their youngest attorneys in.
They put brand new attorneys.
They use it to train brand new attorneys, and I think that that's very problematic. I think the young attorneys need more time, like Andrew's doing with his staff, to go through, which is part of the reason I worked out an agreement with Zoshi, when I took over, actually before I took over, where, I've been practicing 33 years. There's not a lot I haven't seen, and the nice part about a gray beard is they tend to trust you a little more than somebody who is, clean shaven and wet behind the ears. So I can go through and explain it to them in a fashion that they understand it, and the likelihood is, my plea to rejection rate, on the cases I do, the rejections are called Donald hearings, and I probably Donald maybe 1 out of 20. So
generally though, your clients kind of know they did something.
They know they got caught with methamphetamine. They know it's a class 4 felony. They have 3 priors on methamphetamine, and the county attorney's given them a class 6 and stipulating the probation. In other words, get them on probation, get them to where they're being looked at. Those are the cases that are being resolved through the RC court.
Okay.
Just get in, get done, get them on, get on. And
you don't see a lot of innocent people being coerced into taking a plea just to get through the system faster.
They might not be guilty of what they're pleading to.
Right.
But
The issue
the
becomes,
locally-
what are they really charged with? Is it overcharge versus maybe what they did? The plea often is dropping it down to maybe closer to what the evidence shows they did. But they're still giving up their right to trial by taking this plea agreement, whereas the case may be wobbly enough that if it wasn't for the ERC thing, they'd say, let's take it to trial, let's see what happens. But when you're looking at, I'll get my trial in 6 or 9 months, depending on the court's calendar, and I'm going to sit in jail the whole time, or I can get probation and get out next week, that's not a hard decision for many clients.
Would you say because we don't have that many attorneys down there, is it a long process to get to the trial? So are we talking like 6 months to a year?
Elise is 2 years old.
Yeah. Serious cases are probably 2 years. which compared to Maricopa County is actually fast.
Really?
A non-death penalty homicide case is probably 3 to 4 years to go to trial there. So 2 years is pretty fast here, and part of it is lack of defense attorneys, but a big part of it is just the court's calendar. There's only three criminal trial judges. They can only hold so many criminal trials at a time. And once there's a bunch set, they're setting their calendar, a year out. Whereas Maricopa County, they have 100 Superior Court judges, and I think a third of them are doing criminal at any given time. If you've got 30 judges you can assign in front of, you can go a little faster.
But it's still
It's still a pretty big delay up there.
So
But with
again, just for the sake of anybody's listening, here's a Seventh Amendment. Where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right to trial by jury shall be preserved. And I just showed that to him.
And that's not adjusted for inflation, though.
It's not adjusted for anything. It's like pretty much
That's
ignored.
$1,787.
I'm aware.
There was an old story I read in the Reader's Digest, I think back when I was in high school or college. This court in the Midwest was having an unbelievably high percentage of convictions, guilty pleas, or admissions on traffic tickets. And, the state judicial commission decided to look into it. How are you guys doing it? They walk into the courthouse, they look up, but there's a sign above the entry into the courthouse. Don't think about this one, think about all of them you didn't not do it.
So everybody's guilty of something.
So, the basic deal on ERC is, and as Andrew says, they overcharge it and then they drop it to something that's, reflective of what your client probably did and is generally reasonable. And talking with Senior Commissioner Hoggett, former Superior Court Judge Hoggett, about a month and a half ago, he said in post-conviction relief proceedings that he reviewed, the only time he saw ERC being griped about by a defendant were the ones who didn't take the plea. In other words,
They regretted not taking
they regretted not taking
because the outcome
ERC.
was worse.
Yeah.
Because they did 17 years instead of 7 years or something like that.
Or they did 3 and 6. I had one good example. I had a gal that was offered 5 and who didn't want it, and they just settled down for 5.5 through Scott Eckstein. So the county attorney's office is very aggressive about not going better than the ERC plea. And maybe 5% give
That
back.
incentivizes the ERC.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what that does.
Right.
The word gets out that, you're gonna pay if you don't take the deal.
Yep.
So a couple things to move on. The IDC is the Indigent Defense Coordinator. That has 3 support staff. They're overseen by myself and county administration. You'll know these as the 3 support staff as the 3 ladies at the end of the hall by you, Supervisor Anthony, Asleen, Stephanie, and going blank, Maria. So they work to assign the contract attorneys to cases that the 2 offices cannot take, and then they handle the billing for that as
a
well.
lot of hours.
As well as manage the budget for both offices. So we see the whole big picture. We currently have contract attorneys. Now, some of these attorneys do multiple types of cases, so there is some duplication here on.
What are their rates? Do they charge their standard rate or do we have a negotiated rate?
No, there's a county negotiated rate.
What is that?
So for a misdemeanor, it's a flat rate of $200 per case.
Per case?
Per case. Whether it goes to trial, pleads out, whatever, it's $200.
So, for whatever, you mean,
There's
From the
one
beginning
kind
to
of
the
right
end?
around there.
no.
No.
And you have to show significant financial
Yeah.
stress and inability to pay, right? I mean, what's I don't know what
There's
the
a
rules are.
form that the court requires people to fill out, verifying their income is below poverty level, or that they're indigent. But the vast majority of defendants, I would say, are indigent. So we are representing the vast majority of people that come through the courts. So felonies are they're paid by the hour. You're going to help me remember this one.
Do we have like a
I've been
stat?
asking you guys this for a while now. and
No.
Nobody wants to tell me.
It's
Okay.
posted on our website what those rates are.
Yeah, does somebody have the stats on what the criminal defense ratio is between privately funded attorneys and publicly funded attorneys? Do we know what it is? So if the sheriff, how many arrests
Right.
and how many cases,
We
get
don't-
prosecuted, and how many pay for their own lawyer, and how many have to use,
We
I'd
don't
be
see the
interested
ones
to
who are
know.
pay for themselves. We don't see those in our database, but I bet we could combine them with the court's information to figure that out.
Maybe 1 out of 10.
I was going to say 1 out of 20.
1 out of
Is
10.
privately funded?
Yeah.
For the felony ones.
I mean, you got Perry Hicks, you got Chris Russell, you got, who else shows up down here? Mainly Hicks and Russell. Norwick.
Yeah, Warwick occasionally, Adele Drumlovich occasionally.
Yeah, she was
Wow.
there this morning.
Yeah.
So 90% of the people in the court system
Are indigent.
are indigent.
Well, actually 95.
Wow.
So when a case comes in, the indigent defense coordinator sends it out to the department. We have a rotation of how those cases are assigned. If neither of these offices
You know
take
what?
them, we
Because they
get a
weren't
contract.
breastfed when they were.
There you go. There it is. That was a.
I'm steering clear of that.
It's just, it's back to my subsidizing stupid analogy. We government subsidizes stupid. I got you. I'm just saying.
A lot of email.
I don't mind. But anyways,
Just to
That's
explain,
amazing.
so some of the challenges facing indigent defenses we've spoken about here are the funding shortages, just leading to having 2 vacancies in attorneys due to lack of high salary potential.
I think I have it in my office. When we were up at the
Yes.
CSA thing, they gave me
That-
this
that
big
thing,
sheet,
that-
two-sided with all the
The
stuff.
giant
Yeah.
Denny's menu kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a study that CSA did for us on indigent defense costs related to specifically the
Immigration.
county attorney's decision to prosecute those border crimes. And so therefore there's an indigent defense component to that as from a county.
Hopefully you guys will get some relief now.
The felonies have gone down from the border crimes. However, felonies in other areas of the county.
They're charging meth now. Personal use, lots of it.
So, I mean, you're only charging, if you only pay avoid 200
For misdemeanor.
For
misdemeanors. Still,
Felonies
I
are
mean,
higher.
what is the, just to do the right thing? I mean, is that why they would do, $200 is not a lot.
No.
They have a high caseload.
Yeah,
They
on
run.
volume, it sometimes works out where, for example, the main person handling Sierra Vista and also JP2 Douglas and I think
Four occasionally.
for Wilcox, he's down several days a week and just handling 20 misdemeanors, 50 misdemeanors a day.
If you do 2 an hour,
The ones that
that's
bleed
$400
out
an
quickly,
hour, and then
it's 200.
Okay.
If you've got to do a DUI trial and then, you're dealing with maybe an expert, interviewing somebody, doing the actual trial, there's a jury selection for a DUI, you're obviously losing money on that one.
Yeah.
So it's having to make up in a fast one.
again, you're incentivized to.
Let's see.
Griffith got 49 in March, and he got 48 in February, and he got 36 in January. Cases,
Misdemeanors, yeah.
misdemeanor cases,
36 times 2
times 12. He's doing 400 to 600 cases a year.
at $200 a
200
pop.
bucks a pop. That's 120,000.
Plus his contracts in
That's the
county,
other
plus
contract.
private practice.
That's a busy dude.
Yeah.
He's very busy.
He's very busy.
Yeah.
Jumping around a lot.
Wow.
So we,
But he gets
to talk about some of the costs that these offices, it's hard to say exactly what they're going to need in a given year because it fluctuates depending on what cases are coming before them. But judicial related expenses, that's particularly related to experts for defense cases. We are seeing requesting an increase. Charles is requesting an increase in that line due to the number of trials that he has coming up in the next fiscal year, likely to roll into.
We
the
have a
next
couple
one.
high-profile murder.
You want me to expand?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this fiscal year to date, the Public Defender's Office has taken 294 felony cases. Cases that have been on the trial path for this fiscal year, we've had 7 cases that were on the trial path. Of the cases, we had a case that involved a DUI, car got flipped. The gentleman sincerely did not want to take a plea, and it was looking like it was going to go to trial. We invested $1,600 in a outfit by the name of Top Gun Paul Gruen, and $250 in blood alcohol testing and consulting, and they were able to convince the client to take a plea. So we saved the county the cost and the time of going to trial by with an investment of $1,850. We had a case that went to trial, State versus Randy Brown. We had utilized a fire consultant, Associated Fire Consultants. They ran $14,833. And we also had another Barkman at $7,500 for a total of $22,000.
Like an arson case or something?
Yeah, it was an arson case. Guy burned his house down and had a gunfight with the arresting officer as it was burning. Anyway, it was, at trial, we got directed verdict on the arson. So
the judge found the person not guilty before it ever went to the jury.
Mm-hmm. So $15,000 investment.
Because he burned his own house down, and it's not illegal to burn your own house down? Is that
the evidence didn't support him actually starting the fire.
Oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
To the point where the judge said the evidence was so weak, this won't even go to a jury.
Okay, okay.
And
So then it just went to the gunfight part.
right, yeah. And Barkman was the gunfight, trajectories, etc. Then we have the DeLeese trial going. We're currently looking at about $15,000 on Top Gun. He's accident reconstruction, etc. And that trial is all about a flight, an accident, a vehicle rolling, etc. We've also had to do a Rule 11 evaluation. We've had to do a psychosexual evaluation. So far in this fiscal year, we have expended $46,558 on I believe a $23,000 budget.
So we move money from IDC expenses. If he's taking these cases, we may not need as many contract attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
So those professional fees we can move.
Yeah,
We've been
we're
managing this year, but we do foresee needing money into the next year.
and I will tell you, if we don't need the money, I won't spend it. It'll go back into the general fund. I just don't want to have to, this next fiscal, have to be borrowing from court interpreter funds to pay the expert witness fees. And, basically my hand's been out pretty much all year long. Guys, we're doing it. And the problem that you got, take DeLeese. DeLeese has been through several different attorneys, I think, or at least both offices.
Yeah.
And if we don't do the, Brubaker is salaried. She's at 124, I think, but she's salaried. She's she's a fixed cost to the county, and she's doing it. If she didn't do it, it's going to probably go out to Kimmel, because I don't think Wilkinson could handle.
Those are contract attorneys.
Yeah, I don't think Wilkinson could handle DeLeese. I think he would probably end up kicking it over to Kimanow. And Kimanow tends to be rather pricey, so you have both paying Kimanow to do it, the time to do it, and IDC has to pay his experts. So with the PD, the expert fees are the variable. I already have the attorney. With farming it out to Kimanow, both the fees and both the attorney fees and the expert fees are a variable cost that end up having to be done. So bumping up my expert budget helps to keep more cases in a fixed cost basis for the county.
And Andrew's asking for similar judicial-related expenses, and they're each looking for training so that they can provide the necessary training for their attorneys.
I do have one other ask, and I'm asking to establish a professional services fund. I'm asking for 15,000. There are cases that need review, accounting review, medical records review, and one thing that comes up regularly, it's called Celebrite, which Celebrite is a cell phone dump. You can easily end up with 20,000 pages.
Yeah, it's a software used by law enforcement to generate a copy of, for example, a defendant's cell phone to see what evidence is on there. And then they turn over a copy to us because it's evidence they want to use. The amount of information on a modern cell phone, of course, is huge. And Celebrite just creates a copy of it. It's necessary for us to go through it, or, as Charles is suggesting, hiring a person to go through it to help us to try and figure out what supports the state's case, what actually helps our client. That
Where
everybody.
does that data get from the phone company?
No, so it's a physical thing that
From
yeah,
here.
law enforcement just plugs in.
So they get a subpoena for the guy's phone, and then
Yep.
they load it into some software.
The software can strip everything out of the phone, create a copy, even if it's password protected or thumbprint protected or whatever. It's latest, greatest technology that they have that generates a copy. And then for the obvious example is like drug sales. They want to use all the text messages to show, hey, your client's texting with these 20 different people talking about amounts and dollar signs. We're going to use this as proof they were selling.
Mm-hmm.
We have to look through the phone, though, to see, is it really there? Does it support what they're saying?
Oh, so you got to look through the report and you got to go through the phone.
Yeah, well, sometimes
Yes.
we would have to get a new report to look through the phone, but we would start with the initial report provided by the prosecutors. And we're also then looking through it. Does this guy have a business selling car parts? Does this explain the text messages? We're looking for things
Takes a
like
lot
that.
of time.
Does he have one picture of child porn that's stored 20,000 photographs in?
Right. And everybody has a cell phone now. All our clients have cell phones. They might have multiple cell phones. So the Celebrite dumps, these dumps from law enforcement, yeah, exactly, are becoming more and more common where they get a warrant, they get a copy of the phone, and now somebody's got to look through it.
And I can have it done at $20 an hour as opposed to having to, tell Cynthia,
$600.
sit there and look at it. And the thing is, if the $20 an hour analysis shows that we need somebody for $200 an hour, basically I can screen it much cheaper before I have to get into hiring a true expert for an expert opinion. Basically, I'm looking to be able to, avoid the expert fees by pre-screening with people who know what they're looking at, whether it's Celebrite records, accounting records, medical records, the voluminous records that need to be dug through to see if there's anything there. And if it turns out there's something there, at that time, I'll be swapping it over into judicial related expenses. So my guess at 15,000 is a guess. I don't have that fund at the present time. I would like to establish the fund, and if we do, I'll be able to tell you next year how much, give you a better estimate of what was actually needed. Obviously, again, if it's not fully expended, it goes back to the county fund. But it also can help to save the full bore expert fees. The other increase I'm asking for is a training budget. Currently, I believe I'm at $49.25. I'm asking for a $5,000 increase. A year and a couple of years back, the county upgraded to a DBK for the defense. It's Defense by Carpel. It's the same. It's done by the company that does the county attorney's program. They use PBK, prosecutor by Carpel. It's a very in-depth, usable program, but it's being difficult to figure out what all it can do. Mm-hmm. I believe you sent somebody back.
The learning curve on it is beyond steep.
Yeah, I had the ability to send one of my staff back to St. Louis, to where Carpel is based for a 3-day training. Actually, I sent 2 staff, but The cost to send the staff was $1,533. Flight, conference, room, per diem, etc. Yes,
When they came back, did they say it was enough training?
they need to go next year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably an annual training.
It's an annual training, and I need to send, I need to send one or two annually. The attorneys, we fund out of a grant, I think it's a grant that we get for APDA.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the attorney training, we go up to Arizona,
Public.
up to the APDA conference up in Tempe, and do that on an annual basis. But the only cost to the county is room, and we pay for room, or does the grant pay everything?
I think it's
Okay.
a blend.
But it's a blend, but a good portion of it's paid out of grant funding, so it doesn't cost the county. That takes care of the attorneys. But the other thing is I do have one attorney, Rodrigo Andrade, who he does the child sex cases, and there are trainings that he needs to do which are not up at APDA. So I need to be able to pay those.
And that's similar to an increase I'm asking for for similar training, because I have brand new attorneys who need to be trained how to do a trial. That this public defender conference he's talking about we'll all go to, and that's good for refreshers or sort of getting an idea of a new topic. But for really in-depth training, it was attached to our submission. There's more intense conferences I can send attorneys to for a week or 2 weeks where they really learn the nuts and bolts of how to go to trial. And for a newer attorney, that's something they need. That giving a client, hey, here's your attorney. They've never been to a training, never been to trial. They don't have all that much expert funding.
Go free.
Yeah.
I've got a question for Joe. Are you familiar with this carpel stuff at all? Is there, what do you think of 3 days training to learn this stuff compared to something comparable that you or somebody that's real good at this stuff has to do? And how about getting somebody that gets trained and come back to train everybody that needs to get trained instead of thinking, well,
yeah, so IT is familiar with the operations of the system itself, but not as far as running, the law side and, all the fields they have to go. So the IT side is completely different than what they're going to go to training for. So it's not a good fit for IT to train on this system and then come back and then.
Where do they have to go?
We have St. Louis. So that's their headquarters. So we also send 2 people from IDC, 2 people from legal advocate and public defender. And they work together throughout the year and share their resources and knowledge and reinforce the training they received. But each database is separated and walled off from each other. So Asleen cannot give direct training to somebody in the legal advocate's office and vice versa, because then you're seeing cases that you aren't allowed to see.
And at this year's training, for example, the president of Carpel was there and the head programmers were there, so that our people could say, hey, we need it to do this. Can you implement this? So it wasn't through some big phone tree or anything like that.
So what's the total for sending one guy out there? What's the total?
$1,533.
It's kind of like when I look at like the medical field, right? Every year you have to get training to keep your license,
right?
Because there's always new things happening. There's always whatever it may be. And so it's just a sense of being able to be giving your best service to these people. I mean, it's not, it's just like if a dentist went to, a seminar and they came and taught other dentists, it's not the same thing.
And in addition to Carpel, there are other trainings that it'd be nice to be able to send the staff to increase their ability to serve the public. There's other areas out there that they need to learn. The other thing on Carpel is I know the county attorney's office had at least 1, if not 2 or 3 people there.
Yeah. And it is.
So, and they go annually.
It is a very specialized kind of database that only these people in these offices really know how to work, because it's not used across the county in any other way. Just to wrap up, some stats for you, graph on the cases assigned to indigent defense. This does not include the people who paid for their own attorney. Like I mentioned, we don't have that data, but the trend you can see when there's vacancies, contract attorneys go up, but as they did in 23 and 24. When we have attorneys like we did in 20 and 21, the offices take them. Just another graph of felony filings. You can see how it fluctuates depending on how county attorney's office decides to charge and prosecute.
Or how many
Or how
people
many
decide
people
to
are-
kill people.
Yeah.
Well, that was a slide 3 ago that the murder manslaughter cases for a while were up disturbingly
Yeah, 10
high.
10 a year.
Yeah, the last 2 years seems to have been better, so hopefully that trend continues. But those are ones that are just obviously terrible for the people involved, but tough on our budgets.
Right.
That those
Because they're-
require the experts, those require
Yeah,
the seasoned
Because there's
attorneys.
life to death penalty type
Right.
cases, yeah.
Yeah.
They're also probably associated with smuggling and dope.
Remember that one
And
by
these are
me
kind
was
of
just,
all over the place.
just some guy that
So yeah, depends on how
went.
well people behave in any given year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Appreciate your vital, critical, as Mr. Crosby points out, constitutional component of the system.
And these are your people that work some.
No.
So that's finance.
That's fine.
They're waiting for us.
Yeah.
So I appreciate what you guys do.
Yeah, you guys.
Thank you,
I
guys.
know you got a thankless service that you're doing, but somebody's got to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
Thank you.
You see you guys.
See ya.
And with that, we're going to do finance next, so we're adjourned.